Welcome to NG Fishing. This is a small guide on different floats. As many of you may know, there are tons of floats out there on the market. This is just a short selection, and we're just going to go through what their jobs are, when you would use different types of floats. Now we're going to split these floats into two sections. This side we have the pole floats, and this side we have our more traditional waggler style floats. First, let's look at the waggler floats. So here we have what would be described as a traditional waggler from the weighted ones here, which you would use to cast large distances. These particular floats have quite thin tips, so you can see good bite detection for when fishing for roach and bream in really deep water. The weighted bodies allow you to cast really far and can be effective in windy conditions. These are the regular these are crystal waggler floats. Now here we've got a selection of weighted and unweighted ones. The weighted, as you would see, have brass weights underneath. These are the more commonly used floats now for most fishing, and as you can see, the tips can vary from being quite thick to being really thin. These floats can be really effective for fishing in the margins, for small roach with a thin tip, or if you're fishing for carp or more positive bites, then we would quite often use a thicker tip float for those sorts of species. These floats are easily available and can be all sorts of sizes and shapes. You can also get some of these sort of similar floats which are not see-through, so they're more traditional in terms of they've got a wooden body. This one doesn't seem to have a weight on the end, but these again are what we would class as traditional waggler, or some people might even call them a peacock float, for fishing in the margins for small roach, carp, tench, bream that are in fairly shallow water. Now this float here, this is a traditional float. This is called a avon or a stick float. This is often used in the river for trotting small baits, maggots, worm, bits of bread through the current for catching roach, dace, chub, perch, anything that's in the river really. These floats can be quite effective, and it's always worth having a couple if you've got a small stream nearby. Now we're going to have a quick look at the pole floats. Here's just a selection of different pole floats. Pole floats, the things to look out for pole floats is the same as you would for your waggler. Looking for tip size, so we've got a thick one here, and a thin one here. You might often use one that's thin like this one for catching roach and small fish, where you're looking for small bites. This one where you're looking for more positive bites. One maybe even like this one here with a thicker body would be perfect for fishing stuff like paste. And then we've got these tiny little dibbers. Now these have become really popular over the last sort of 3 or 4 years with match fishermen. When you're fishing what they call the slap pellet, so you're fishing a small little float like this, only about a foot deep, fishing pellet, and you're just firing pellets out all the time, picking it up, slapping the float and slapping the pellets, making a noise to try and get the fish to take it as it's dropping. So there's a small selection of floats, and there's a small guide of where and what sort of floats you would use in what sorts of situations. Please look out for a video on float fishing itself and tight lines.